West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Richard C. Hoagland.
Yes, Richard. You mentioned that at 19.5 north and south of the equator is a special latitude.
Right.
Isn't there also such a special latitude north and south of the poles, 19.5?
No. No, it's reference to the equator because that's the way the geometry works, and there are higher order latitudes, like 30 degrees, 45, 60. It's curious that HAARP, which is this huge electromagnetic installation funded by the Air Force and the Naval Research Lab, is located north of Fairbanks, just about exactly at 60 north, and just about opposite the meridian of Giza, of the Great Pyramid. And the last show I did, I made mention that that was kind of coincidentally curious, because if you go back to Bearden's work, a la Tesla, you find that one of the ways to interact with the planet in a potential modification of these forces would be to use appropriate electromagnetic technology in ways that would attempt to interfere with the process which is changing the physics and causing the problem.
I see.
It's kind of like music theory, where
harmonics.
What you want is harmonics that are pleasing, and what we have currently are disharmonies. We have clashing notes. And the idea was massive electromagnetic technology. You could change the disharmonies into harmonies, which would in essence ameliorate the problem. But you need to do it on a big scale. And HAARP is the biggest thing going that kind of looks like that might be one of the things they're doing in secret and not telling us.
I see. What about, like, Hawaii? Why is that longitude so special? Why isn't there, like, Hawaii volcanoes all across the planet?
Excellent question. And we don't probably have time for a really detailed answer. It has to do with the ideal versus the real. When you used to study physics in high school, they'd give you these classic problems, Newton's first law, second law, third law. Then they would introduce you to a frictionless table with little hockey pucks sliding around on liquid CO2 to simulate a frictionless environment in weightlessness. Well, it kind of approached it, but it wasn't ideal. It was an approximation. The problem is that planets, real worlds, are not ideal. They're approximations. And so instead of having a ring of activity at 19.5, the activity tends to cluster at one point, at one longitude. And in our epoch, in our era, that longitude is under Hawaii. That's a kind of a simple explanation. It has to do with fluid physics in the real world.
Could the spin or this rate of the spin of the planet affect that hyperdimensional physics or energy?
The other way around. The physics changing is affecting the spin. And if you look in the paper on the web, there are two specific examples culled from the scientific literature that are really important evidence that we're on the right track. One is the change of dynamical time, meaning the spin of the Earth, relative to atomic time. Art advertises this atomic clock that resets itself and is accurate to 1 second in a million years.
Yep.
Well, we've added 20 seconds in the last 20 years.
That's true.
So that kind of throws that one into the ash can. There's something going on they're not telling us.
Well, it's still accurate. It just means they have corrected for whatever.
It's accurate, but it's out of step with the rotational clock, and they have to keep adding seconds to bring them back into step.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Something is rotten in Denmark, actually, in Boulder. Number two, gravity is changing. What?
I was laughing.
Thank you. Gravity is changing. I mean, gravity is supposed to be a constant. By the way, this gets to the really exciting thing about what happened to the dinosaurs. If you look at dinosaur, skeletons,
Yes.
and you look at the size of these guys,
Right, they're big.
they're huge.
Yep.
No paleontologist now, worth his salt, has thought of the obvious problem, which is that you couldn't have Jurassic Park because the damn things would collapse under their own weight. There was a very brilliant engineer named Arthur Young who showed me a paper he had done many, many years ago. He was the inventor of the Bell helicopter, Art.
Right.
Before he turned to other things. And he was up in Berkeley, and I gave my first public presentation on the Mars data at his institute in Berkeley. Anyway, he gave me a little paper that he'd written, 20, 30 years ago, showing two curves. parallel to each other. One, all the big guys that live on Earth now. Elephants, blue whales, big cats, lions, that kind of thing.
Right.
Rhinoceri. And then another line showing all the dinosaurs. And what he was able to form were two parallel curves showing that each large animal fit on a curve, but the two curves were not sequenced to each other. In other words, they were parallel, they were not contiguous, indicating to him that somehow gravity of the Earth itself had changed by a factor of a third between the time of Jurassic Park and now. Gravity has increased by a third since the time the dinosaurs lived, and only the hyperdimensional model A predicts this, and B explains how it happened, and it goes to the heart of Tom Van Flander's idea,
Right.
which is a whole other show.
Right. All right. Wild card line, you're on the air with Richard C. Hoagland. Hi.
Hi, Art. Hi, Richard.
Hi there.
Yeah, hi, Art.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Richard. Sorry if I'm kind of talking not too loud here. I just want to say it's a pleasure to be on the air with both of you.
Sure. Where are you?
I'm calling from Chicago, Illinois here.
All right.
And I was wondering, Richard, this is a question for you. Is there anything to the isogonic value that changes with the Earth's magnetic north? Do you know what I'm talking about when I say the isogonic value?
No.
It's a variation that pilots use to correct for magnetic disturbance. You know, it's along the idea that true north is a magnetic north is not really at true north.
Right. The North Magnetic Pole is located somewhere around Hudson's Bay, as opposed to the actual inertial pole of the rotation of the Earth.
Right.
And it drifts, doesn't it, towards the
It's
west?
slowly drifting, yes.
Towards the west, is it, or is it like is there a direction that it is going towards?
It absolutely is, and I don't remember whether it's east or west, but I know that pilots need to do corrections for magnetic compasses based on reports given by the government as to how much the drift is.
I believe it's to the west.
Okay.
Those have been the majority of the reports we've had, and there are some pretty anomalous moves of magnetic north. I get faxes about it all the time.
Okay, again, this is wonderful work for correlations between those kind of things, polar wander, the so-called Chandler wobble of the Earth's axis. No one's doing this correlating because they don't think anything is connected. This model says all this stuff is really connected. We've got a meta-theory now. We now need to put meat on the bones and do the tabulations and see if the correlations are there.
Right. And so how do we get mainstream science to do that?
Well, I've had nibbles from Los Alamos. That's one of the reasons that we're here in New Mexico, because we're in the center of what I call the Black Triangle. We have three of the most incredible research labs located within 30 miles of me, all right? Sandia, Phillips, and Los Alamos.
And you've really had nibbles, huh?
We've had nibbles since our university presentation.
Well, that's a beginning. All right, we're going to break here at the bottom of the hour. Richard C. Hoagland is here. If you have a question, we're going to lay into the phones as we have this half hour very heavily. I'm Art Bell, and of course, this is Coast to Coast AM.